It's time for the 2025 Canada preview and predictions. This is quite the incredible track. People that go here always enjoy it. And it seems to give us a good race every year, whether it's wet or dry. It's just a really good track that's somewhat of a street track, but provides plenty of action throughout the weekend. I think I've enjoyed the past 3 GPs, no matter who is the winner, even though it's been Max all 3 of those years. But there's always something dramatic about it and something fun here in Canada. Some iconic moments that have happened here is when the Wall of Champions was born in 1999, due to a couple of champions going into this wall, hence why the name. We also had Lewis Hamilton get his first victory in Formula 1 with McLaren here in 2007, which yet again was a pretty dramatic race, but Lewis came out on top. And that very dramatic race had a certain driver called Robert Kubica crash, and it was an insane, horrifying crash. But he ended up coming the next year and actually winning it, which was just insane for his career and quite the comeback. There was also in 2011 a race that lasted over 4 hours. It was the longest race in history with a massive 2-hour delay, and Jenson Button ended up actually winning this. Was last at some point, ended up coming to the top. It was insane. I mean, Canada truly provides every year. You look at 24, bunch of rain, very dramatic, super entertaining. 23 had Fernando up in P2, Lewis in P3. They were fighting the whole time. Alex Albon had that crazy overtake in 2024. And in 22, we had Carlos Sainz breathing down the neck of Max Verstappen. Every year provides some action. It is a very fun track to watch. Also, if my voice does sound a little bit weird, I have allergies and it's going crazy this year. It literally looks like there's snow because of all the pollen all over the place. So yeah. But let's take a look at the preview here. We yet again have the C6 tire. We're going to be seeing this a lot this year. It does make for a quite interesting qualifying. You never really know if the yellow tire is going to be faster than the red. But this track is quite interesting, and looking at this preview makes me question it very much. Downforce out of 1? Yeah, I don't think so. It does have a very big straight, but we're not looking at Monza levels of downforce. I do think we're probably going to get a 2 out of 5 because you still need a bit of downforce to help you out in Sector 1, especially at the start of it. But it's mainly a traction race. That's where most of the importance plays in these cars here in Canada. And braking is pretty big, especially into that hairpin, all of Sector 1 as well. And being very particular in how you brake, trying to finish that lap so you do not hit track limits in qualifying or hit the Wall of Champions for that fact. But quite the interesting track. Remember, track evolution is huge here. Not too many races happen in Canada, so it's not a particularly clean track and requires a lot of cars running around it to give it more optimal time. If we're looking at the most intriguing stuff coming here, obviously it's going to be taking a look at Max Verstappen. Will he end up getting the race ban? He's 1 penalty point off. And knowing how the guy is, he might just get it for fun. So who's going to end up replacing him in the next couple of GPs? How he's going to do here? Can Red Bull actually jump back? There's been a lot of talk of them not having no upgrades anymore for the rest of the season. So this is going to be a big GP for them. Can they capitalize on what they had going for them in a couple of GPs, like in Saudi, like in Imola? This track is a bit slow speed. I do expect McLaren to be very fast, but maybe Max can put it up there. You never really know with the guy. Elsewhere, we're still looking at Colapinto. That Alpine seat is quite the intriguing one. You never really know what's going to happen there as well. Sauber had quite a good week. Let's see if they can go with those upgrades and continue in a very different track. Can Aston Martin stay within the points? Will Lance Stroll be back? There's quite a few things to look out for. But last time in Spain, looking at the pit stop syndicate, yet again, you guys destroyed me. I finished somewhere in 200, but we had a race of the equals at the top. Nemo, Anna, Anton, and Afra all ended up finishing with the same amount of points. And of course, if you look at exact positions, which is 21 points, meaning they got 3 out of the 5 right, I don't think anybody predicted Nico Hülkenberg to be in the top 5. So if you haven't already, go in and put your submissions, see if you can compete with the top 5 here, at least for this race week's leaderboard. Looking at the final leaderboard right now, we have Sandro leading at the top with 50 points and 2 people tied for P2 and P3. Corrupt 1 and 1980 Space Guy with 49 points. So make sure, go drop your submissions, unchainedmediainc.com. This is going to be an America's race, so everybody is pretty much tied right now going into it, which should make it a lot of fun. But now we can go over my predictions for this race week. And per usual, we start with the worst and the best teams, but worst first. And now it's a bit trickier. Sauber does not look like the worst car. Sometimes. I think it's up for debate whether they're the worst or not. But right now, I'm just going to say Haas is looking like the worst car, with Sauber in P9, Alpine in P8. That's also debatable because that car in the race isn't that good, but in qualifying, it's much better. But it really hurts its tires in the race, hence why I have it in P8, because that's what we have to go off of. But it's nice to see that every car can compete for points. I mean, I didn't expect a P5. He was in the right place at the right time. Still, good job for Nico. I hope Gabi can score some points. He definitely deserves them. Looking at the best teams, I do think it's easy to pick a favorite here. To me, McLaren is going to be the best car. It's a traction race. That car on traction is ridiculous and nasty. So P1 for McLaren, at least out of the teams. But I do believe we're going to see a different team in P2. It's going to be Mercedes. The car has been always very good around Canada. Look at 22, look at 23, and 24 where George Russell was able to put it up in pole position. I do believe it's a very good track. All around, it's been very good for the Mercedes team. And Red Bull with Max Verstappen in P3. I still do believe it's going to be close. Qualifying is going to play a big contributor if you can actually win the race here. Overtaking is possible, but it's still a bit tricky if you can line up your car correctly in that very last sector 3. Now let's look at the Unchained driver here. I'm going to go for a guy that had a ridiculous overtake here in 2024, and that is Alex Albon. I think he's been having an outstanding season. Spain was definitely a mess. I would say it's been his worst race of the year by far, but if that's going to be the only race that he didn't have that was good, then that would be, if not the best driver of the year. I mean, definitely debatable. A couple more that you can throw up there. Alex has been one of those guys though. Looking at the surprise team, kind of talked about him already. I do believe Mercedes is going to be the second fastest car here, so they're going to be my surprise team for the Canada weekend as well. They've actually done a pretty good job. I thought the TD was going to hurt them pretty badly, but it seems like every team kind of evened out and it didn't do much. Now looking at worst drive. This is always up for debate. You can kind of throw up anybody in here. It's a guess. You always got to make a prediction here. Kimi hasn't been so hot, but I do believe another one of his rookies, Ali Behrman, is not going to have a great race here. I'm just going off of instinct. I can't really tell you why I picked Ali, but that's the first thing that came to mind. Hence why Ali is in my worst drive. But now we can go over the top 5. All right, looking at our race weekend. Typically when I do these, I end up making a little chart, seeing who I'm going to put in the top 5. I'm just going to go off the dome. It's probably going to make my predictions a bit worse, but at least you guys get to see the full thought process. For favorite team, I'm going to put the team in green so it shows up like that. Whatever team you put as favorite team, it will show up in the leaderboard. If you make it into the top 10, that colorway shows up. I think you guys have already seen it, but just to mention it again. And obviously the race weekend for 2025 is the Canadian GP. But let's go from P5 to winner. This is tough. I think it's a track where a lot of people can get into the top 5. Something is telling me that a Williams could crawl up here. We keep seeing random P5s, no random podiums yet, but it's always so debatable on who's 4th and 5th. Those are, to me, the hardest picks by far here. And looking through the list, a couple people cross my mind, but I'm going to put up Charles. I always end up putting him in P5, and then it screws me by the end of the weekend. He ends up getting somewhere in P4 or P3. He ends up either exceeding it or completely ruining it. And I forgot to mention, there are some pretty big updates being talked about here for Ferrari. Are they going to work? I don't know, but my gut is telling me P5 for Charles. Looking at P4, this is also a place that is so tough to predict. To me, it's going to be the Dutch guy, Max Verstappen. He's been so good around this track, it's hard to actually count him out. But something is telling me that it's going to be a fight between Mercedes and McLaren for the victory. A lot of curbs, slow traction. They did do good in Imola, but I don't believe Imola is a traction race like this is. More like Miami. Canada has a lot more features like Miami, in my opinion. There are also differences as well. But because of that, we saw Kimi put it up in P1 in the sprint. He also had a P3 in qualifying for the big race in Miami. I think George can do the same. In P3, you know what? Lando's been failing me throughout the season. I keep wanting to put him up in winner, but Oscar keeps proving that my predictions are not making any sense. He's just doing such a good job this year. So I'm going to say Lando in P3, as hard as it is to actually put him there. He's not been great. And this track is going to require a lot of confidence, especially in that last sector. Oscar just seems to be nailing the braking. He's smooth. He's confident. That makes a big difference in this car. In P2, I'm going to put up George Russell. It's going to be close. I think he's going to put up a fight as much as possible. The car just isn't there race pace wise, but I think he can hold Lando back. He did end up doing it in Bahrain, even with the big advantage that he had. I believe in George for P2, and my winner for this is going to be Oscar Piastri. Now for fastest lap, just because I do believe he's going to try his hardest to actually catch George, I'm going to put up Lando in fastest lap and Constructors winner. If you don't pick McLaren, you're losing out on free points in 2025. But I'd love to see your predictions down below. Let's see what you guys get. See if you can beat me. As I said, I was about 250 last time, so I did not do a good job. But thank you all for support. Make sure you check out the website. Merch is pretty close to done. This is a final copy, so I hope you guys like it. Anyways, thank you all for support. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.